What's going on? It's your girl Tina, and I am back with another Black History 365 presentation for you all. So, as you all can tell by the title, today's presentation, of course, is on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was born January the 15th, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. He was born into a family of ministers, and at first he resisted the ministry because he felt it would not give him the opportunity to address the social injustices that he and other black people experienced in the South. When he attended Morehouse, his plan was to become a doctor or lawyer. However, he came to appreciate the social and intellectual tradition of the ministry due to the influences of George D. Kelsey, which was his religion professor, and Dr. Benjamin Mays, the president of Morehouse. After graduating in 1948, he attended Krauser Theological Seminary, where he received high honors. He went on to attend Boston University for his doctoral studies. After Dr. King's doctoral studies, he chose to become the pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. Then, on December 1st, 1955, his role as a civil rights leader emerged when Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to follow the segregation laws enforced on the city buses. This led to several groups within the black community coming together to boycott the buses. Some of the groups that came together, just to name a few, were the NAACP and the Women's Political Council. The groups then formed the Montgomery Improvement Association, also known as MIA, to work with city and bus line officials to end the unfair treatment of black people. Dr. King was the first president of the Montgomery Improvement Association. MIA was also organized. They organized reduced taxi fare rides and carpools for the black community during that time period. And Dr. King was threatened and arrested, but he preached nonviolence to the boycotters despite of the hate that they endured. On December the 21st, 1956, Montgomery city buses were integrated. Dr. King then formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He traveled to Ghana in 1958 to take part in their independence celebration, and in 1959 he went to India to meet with some associates of Gandhi. He also decided to accept the co-pastor offer from his father at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. So from 1960 to 1962, he continued to speak out against the social injustices faced at the schools, bus stations, voting booths, and lunch counters while supporting other groups with the same goals. Dr. King did face some failures along the way, such as in December 1961 when he traveled to Atlanta, Georgia to end segregation. Due to the lack of cooperation among the black organizations and the inability to keep black people from turning to violence, King's philosophy of nonviolence was questioned. But however, he redeemed himself in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. He was invited by local black leaders who wanted to protest against segregation in downtown stores. A march was organized, but the police responded with attack dogs and clubs. He and Ralph Abernathy were arrested and placed in solitary confinement. While incarcerated, he wrote his famous Letter from a Birmingham Jail. After his release from jail, the march continued. Approximately 3,000 marchers were arrested and faced unspeakable brutality. The brutality that unarmed men, women, and children endured outraged the nation. The negative publicity the business owners received helped them come to an agreement with the protesters. The agreement, however, did not stop white extremists from bombing Dr. King's hotel and his brother's home. The Kennedy administration sent federal troops in to stop the violence, and their efforts were successful. Then on August 28, 1963, about 250,000 black and white people marched on Washington, D.C. to encourage the passage of the Civil Rights Bill. This is where Dr. King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. In January of 1964, Dr. King became the first Black American to receive the Man of the Year honor by Time magazine. Then in December of 1964, he became the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed thanks to the efforts of Dr. King and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. In 1966, he and the SCLC were able to influence some change in the North where discrimination was more subtle and less extreme. Dr. King also expanded his efforts to include human rights issues around the world. He spoke out against the Vietnam War, and this led anti war officials to they wanted him to run for presidential office as an independent candidate, but Dr. King declined because he did not want to be restricted by political obligations. Dr. King also organized the Poor People's Campaign with the goal of putting a more human face on American capitalism. In March 1968, Dr. King was invited to speak in support of sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee to improve their working conditions. A march was organized and violence broke out. Dr. King was determined to return and reestablish his nonviolence stance. Then on April the 3rd, 1968, he gave his last speech because on April the 4th, 1968, he was assassinated at the Lorraine Motel while standing on the balcony. All right, you guys. So this concludes the presentation on Dr. Martin Luther King. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that everyone has heard of his history before. But again, being that his birthday is being celebrated on Monday, I did want to take some time out and do a presentation in honor of this great leader of ours. All right, you guys. So, as always, until the next video, if it ain't excellent, it's irrelevant. Until next time.